Okay, we're going to do another full wrap with vinyl. I'm going to do this one on a 30-ounce skinny from Makerflow. And I'm going to use this skull paper. We're going to go over a black tumbler. So, I'm going to trim it down a little bit to start. If I can find my paper trimmer. My cup's a little damp, but that's okay because we're going to do a different method. So I'm going to lay this down to double check that. I don't need to cut off quite that much. Probably a little too much. Double check it again. That should be good. And I'm just going to cut an inch-ish off the edge, because I'll clean up my edge when I'm done. I'm going to have a good overlap, but that's fine. Alright, get this out of the way. So for this one, we're going to do the wet method of application. I don't do Windex for my wet method. I know a lot of people do. I don't particularly trust Windex to not come up through my paper. I don't trust it to not hurt the adhesive. I'm going to see if this pan is big enough for this. No, because my paper's not, my table's not the smoothest, but I can do it on the back side. It should be fine. Make sure I'm right side up. So I don't use Windex. I use water with a couple drops of dish soap. So I'm going to put some on the vinyl. I should be using a spray bottle, but I don't have a spray bottle handy. Well, my spray bottles seem to wear out. And then I'm going to go ahead and just squirt a little bit around the cup itself. Doesn't need to be super soaked, but all right. Oops. Sorry. All right, so now we're just gonna put the vinyl down and roll it, and this will allow us to slide the vinyl anywhere we want, in theory. It's not gonna stick yet. And I wasn't going to use my edge trimmer on this, but there's a little tiny white stripe on the top of the vinyl, so I'm probably going to edge trim it. But that allowed me to shift it enough that my bottom's perfectly lined up and my top is actually perfectly lined up. It's unfortunate, but I have to trim that off. So I'm going to set this down, I'm going to clean this up, and then I'm going to squeegee this out. Okay, so I'm going to start pushing any water out from underneath the vinyl. I'm still going to use the felt side of my squeegee. And when you do the wet method of application, you do have to let it dry like you would a water slide, because you don't want any water trapped underneath inside your wrap. But I really don't think I ended up with too much in there, surprisingly, because I'm not really getting any coming out the seams too much. Just rolling it on a paper towel just to wick up any that did come out. But it is completely bubble free, perfectly lined up. I did get my edge tool out, so I am gonna clean up that top rim. The bottom rim is perfectly fine, so. And I am doing this before it dries because there's less of a chance of it messing up the paint if the vinyl's not like fully adhered. So there we go. Now I have a flawless rim. And I did shift my vinyl a little bit when I did that. So the only other thing I want to do is I want to clean up my overlap here because I have like a good solid inch of overlap, or nearly an inch. So we've done this before. I'm kind of curious what the underneath looks like. So that skull comes out about here. So I think that's the line I'm going to want to cut on. So I'm going to take my straight edge, and I'm going to go for like right in the middle of these two flowers. Should be a good spot. So I'm going to line my straight edge up and take my sharp X-Acto knife, and I'm going to go through both layers of vinyl. Then I'm going to go ahead and peel off this top layer and lift the bottom. Lift the other side rather, not the bottom. Goodness. So I didn't quite get cut through my top and bottom. You can see that my cup is pretty dry underneath already. I'm going to put this back down and just trim that. There. That way I got this full skull. And I will have a completely joined flat seam by doing it that way. I'm going to lift this back up just 1 second. Just so I can relay them super flat. So, flawless seams top and bottom, and absolutely no air bubbles of any sort. As long as your spray paint's flat, your vinyl is going to be completely flat. So I'm going to let this sit and dry, and then we're going to get some epoxy on it. I'm not going to decal this in any other way. I'm just leaving it strictly the vinyl. Alright, I am ready to get my resin on this. I think I got a little bit of rogue glitter in my resin, but that's just going to be okay. It'll be what it'll be. I'm using KS Liquid Stone Ultra UV for this batch. I was just pouring it into a separate cup because I don't always like to scrape the bottom. So I think I'm going to add to this a tiny bit of that honey gold because it will match those leaves really well. Remember, this honey gold is not a cheap diamond dust, it's a regular colored diamond dust. So it's only going to get like a tiny bit. Like that. It's just an ultra fine powder. Not a mica, however. So. I know it looks like a lot when it's in here like this, but I promise you, it's all good. If you haven't seen me do this before, don't panic. See? It's fine. And I'm going to have to level my cup up when I'm done. The rest of the coats on this cup will just be plain old clear coats. And I'm going to go in with my whole hand just to mix the diamond dust a little bit better into the epoxy that's on the cup. To even it out a little bit more, I guess. There are some spots where it's deposited a little thicker than others. So. I know some of you don't like it when I use my entire hand on a cup, but it's fine. I promise you, it's fine. So. Especially at the end of a long day of cup making. Okay, so I'm going to get this glove off. And I'm going to bring this up, and then I'm going to get this cup leveled because it needs it. So you can see where it's more heavily deposited in some spots, but plus it kind of shifts. So like when you're right on it, you see it a lot, but down further, like you don't until I turn it. So it's one of the things I like about this particular diamond dust. So there we go. Full wrap. The bottom's just black with a little bit of the diamond dust. This cup's too big for me to get under the camera, so that is it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.